Hi guys, and welcome to another Divi WordPress theme tutorial. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignertechtips.com. What we're going to do in this little video here is we're going to create some images that when you hover over them, they're going to start off as grayscale, and when you hover over them, they're going to grow and turn into color images. It's a nice little effect, and it's pretty easy to do too. So let's get started. Okay, so I've got my Divi theme open here, and as you've heard me say many times before, if you've watched these, Divi is absolutely awesome and it just keeps getting better. If you want to try it, check it out from the link below this video. I'm going to enable the visual builder here. Now it's enabled, I'm going to go down and create another row. I guess I'll go below these, doesn't really matter, this is just a demo page. I'm going to create a regular row. Inside that row, let's make it a column of 4, let's say. Okay. Don't want to add anything just yet. So I'm going to cancel out of that. So here's our section and here's our row with 4 columns in it. I want to edit these columns, and I'm going to make our images within the backgrounds of these columns. And there is a reason for me doing this rather than using images or what have you blocks, because in the next video I'm going to do a text overlay that appears when you hover over it, and this just makes it easier to do that. And then further on down the road, I'm going to do one about modals, using modals with Divi, which is actually not present in the Divi theme, so I've got to use an external plugin for that. Anyway, back to the job in hand. Here is our row of 4 columns. Let's hit the little cog to edit the column. And I want to go to the background. And I want to add a background image to the column. So I want to actually scroll down. There's column 1 background. Go to the image tab. Add an image. Haven't really planned this. I should have got some better images ready. Let's just use what we can find here. Okay. That one. We'll have to give this a bit of padding to actually give it some height. So we'll do that. I'm going to go Design tab, down to Spacing, and now we want column 1. Try 150. Bit more like it. And let's give the bottom 152. Okay, I think that's going to work. What I'll do is I'm going to copy this to the other columns as well, because I'm just going to add some images behind those also. So column 2, that should be 150. I don't know how I cut that off there. Maybe it is one. Go back and take a look. Yeah, it is, that's fine. Top and bottom, that's fine. Of course we can add the link to just add it to there automatically. That's fine. Let's add our custom images now to our other 3 columns. So back to content, back to backgrounds. Column 1 background we've got. Column 2 background, image. And I'm just going to use the first ones I see here. There's 2. Do the same for 3. I think we do this one. And similar for column 4. Go. Image. Add the image. Use another one with a bit of color on it. Let's use that one. Okay, so we've got our 4 images. Let's just save that. What I want to do is have these appear grayscale, so there's no color in them. And then when we hover over them, I actually want them to enlarge and become color. So let's give this a CSS class so we can actually target it. So we'll go back in there, go to the advanced CSS ID and classes, and column 1 CSS ID, we want a class. I guess I'll call it ZM for zoom, or ZM, however you like to say it, and I'll give the same class to the rest of these. Column 2 class, column 3 class, and column 4 class. Now we can target them with a bit of CSS. So let's save this. Let's save what we've done there and exit the Visual Builder when it saved it. So here's our 3 little columns, which is fine, but it's not what I want. Now let's just select one of them and let's make that one grayscale. So I don't want the row, I actually want the column within it. It doesn't really matter which one, so I think that's it right there. And let's add a bit of CSS. Should show our class. Yeah, there's our class ZM, and we'll say filter, because we want it to filter the image. And what do we want it to do? We want it to give it a grayscale. So that's Grayscale, open and close some round brackets, no gap, and we want to tell it to do it 100%, so all the way to grey. There we go, and as you can see, that's turned grey now. Okay, that's fine. So let's just copy that bit of CSS. We've got everything we need right now. And let's go to our Divi options to the CSS. You can do it in the customizer, in the additional CSS. It takes you to the same panel. And all we've got here is we're down at the bottom, we're in Divi, we're in theme options, and it's down at the bottom of the page here. So I'm going to start at the top again. I'm going to put a title in so we know what's going on. / */ / / It makes things easier to find when you've got lines and lines of CSS. Just give it a title there. And I guess I'll call it zoom image. Probably don't need that X in there. Touch of fat finger there. Okay, so we gave it a class. What was our class? ZM or ZM? So it's class, so it's a dot. ZM for zoom. I'm going to open and close some curly brackets. And inside, we're going to paste that bit of code that we just copied. Filter grayscale 0. Now let's just save that. And go back to our page. Now when I refresh this page, all of those should turn grayscale like that. So let's refresh, because they've all got that same class. So anything that you add the class ZM or ZM to, it's going to turn it to grayscale like that. Alright, that's objective 1 achieved, which is to turn these to grayscale. Next thing is when I hover on it, I want it to zoom and get bigger so we can see the image better, and I also want it to be color as well. So let's do the color first, I suppose. That would be the easiest. We'll go back to our options here, back to our CSS editor. I'm going to go ahead and copy this from the dot of the ZM to the closing curly bracket there. Control C. I'm going to drop down to, doesn't matter if you drop down 1 or 2, but I just like to give it a bit of space, find it easier to read that way. Now after the ZM or ZM, I'm going to hit colon, and this is really important, no space. You don't want a space in there, and just write hover. And that's going to say when we hover our mouse over this ZM element, we want something to happen. So the first thing we want to happen is that we want that grayscale to disappear. So let's just take the percentage down to 0, and that should make it have no effect whatsoever. So it kind of takes it from all the way up to all the way down. Let's save that. And we'll take a look back to our page, refresh. Nothing should have changed. But once we've refreshed, when we hover over one of these images here, it should turn to color again. Let's try it. Yep, there we go. Happening a little bit quickly, but it's happening. So that's the main thing. So we can fix that all with a bit of transition CSS in a minute. Well, I guess we'll do that now. Let's go back to our hover. And not in the hover state, but actually in the main class itself, we're going to add a bit of transition CSS. So we're going to say transition, colon, and we want it to, everything that's going on, we want it to affect. So we'll say all. And what sort of time do we want? Let's say give it 1.5 seconds maybe. You can always change it, 1.5 seconds, or you can do it in milliseconds, or you can do it 0.5 seconds for half a second. And how do we want it to happen? We want it to sort of ease in and then ease out. We don't want it sort of jumping in and jumping out. So we want to, we'll say ease dash in dash out. And that should sort of ease it in and ease it out. So let's just save that. Got the check mark, back to the site. Before I refresh, I'll just remind you what it looks like now, which is fine, it's working, but it's doing it instantly. When I refresh, it should take 1.5 seconds to make it go back to the color version. So let's refresh. Now it's refreshed, let's have another go. There we go, it's a lot more gentle, it's a lot more subtle. As you can see, it's taking 1.5 seconds. You can make it longer or shorter, however you like to do it. But I think that makes it a little bit more interesting, having it doing it slower like that. Okay, so that's objective 2. Let's try that again. That's objective 2 achieved. Now objective 3 is when we hover on it, I want it to get bigger. I want to see a bigger sized image, a fuller image. So let's do that. Let's go back to our theme option. Now when do we want it to happen? We want it to happen when it hovers, so we're going to put it in the hover CSS here. And we're going to use a bit of CSS scale. So we're going to say transform. And then we're going to hit a colon and we're going to say scale. And open and close some round brackets. And in between those round brackets, I'll put a semicolon on the end, is how much we want it to scale by. Do we want it to scale by half? That would make it smaller. Do we want it to scale by 1.5? That would be 1.5. Let's try 3. That's going to make it pretty big. That may be too much. So we've got transform, scale, 3. Save our changes again. And back to the site. Now when we refresh and hover over this, not only should it start to color out, it'll also should grow, if I've written it correctly in the CSS there. Alright, let's try that. There we go. Well, I don't know, that is a little bit big maybe. As you can see, it's taking 1.5 seconds to do that, and it's still going from black and white to color in 1.5 seconds also. I think that's a little too large. Also, we've got this next door image. That little one to the right is on the top of it. I really want that behind it every time it does that, so we can do that easy enough. So let's take that scale down to maybe 2. I think the 3 is a little bit too big. And fix the issue. Fix the issue with the little image being on top there. We can do that pretty easily again with some CSS. So let's do that. And again, we want this to happen on the hover when it actually hovers. So let's try that. So let's take that scale down to 2, make it a little bit smaller. That 3 was a little bit big, but of course it's your site. That's entirely up to you. Now the problem we had was the large image was, or the small image was appearing on top of the large. If we go back, that little image on the right there is on top of our large image. I don't want that. Every time an image gets large like this, I want it to be on top and everything else to be behind it. We can fix that with a bit of z-index or z-index CSS. So z-index. And we've got to give it a high number just to make sure that it's, the higher the number, the more in front it is. And you can do negative numbers to make things go behind other elements. But I'm just going to give it 999999. So that's a pretty high number right there. I don't think anything else will be on top of that. So let's try that. Save this. Back to the page. And let's refresh. This time that image should be a bit smaller because it should be only twice the size because we've only scaled it by 2. And hopefully it should be on top of all the other images. There we go, that's more like it. Yeah, I like that size a bit better. And as you can see, each time we zoom on one, the other images are behind it there, which is great, which is what I want. Alright, so that's objective 3 achieved. I think there's one last thing I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is when it hovers, I'm just going to add a bit of box shadow under here so it stands out even more. So let's do that quickly. So we'll give it some box shadow. And I'll do one of my usuals, which is sort of 5 pixels. By 15 pixels by 25 pixels, and we want to give it a pretty dark color, so let's say try 777. We might want to go a little darker with that. Okay, what have I done wrong here? It's I put an M on the pix there. You see it's got a little X there telling me I've done something wrong. Got an M on the pix there. You've got to spell things right if you want them to work. So let's save our changes. Now refresh. Now when we mouse over, when the page is loaded, it should have a nice box shadow behind it. There we go. Yeah, I kind of like it there, but I'm not sure about the box shadow, that blue down at the bottom. Let's make it a little bit darker. Let's go for black. It's always a bit of a winner, so let's make it 000 for black. Save those changes. Refresh the page. Now let's take a look. There you go, that stands out nicely there. Okay, so there we have it. That is how to make some grayscale images and have them turn to color when they zoom, and adding a bit of box shadow. Nice little effect, works well. In our next video, I'm going to add some text overlay so that when it zooms, you've got a bit of text that comes up here, perhaps with a gradient behind it so you can read it. So I hope you found that useful. If you have, please like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're interested in web development, take a look below. We've got some great free courses, and there's also some premium courses down there with some huge discounts for our YouTube subscribers. So once again, this has been Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.